Hello and welcome. My name is Justin Chan. I'm 35 years old. I'm from Ontario, Canada, and I have kidney cancer. Chances are, if you're here, it's probably because you either have kidney cancer, or you have cancer, or you might be a caregiver who's supporting somebody who does have cancer. So I'd like to say thank you for being here today and checking out my channel. But also, I am sorry for the journey you're obviously going through. I'm going through the same thing, and it's been a roller coaster. So I can only imagine how you're feeling. This is my very first video. My channel is brand new, so I'm hoping that these videos can reach somebody who might find them useful. Today, for this specific video, it's more of an introduction to who I am and just wanted to go over essentially what my journey's been like with cancer over the past almost 2 years now. Actually, I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. It's pretty crazy. The purpose of the channel is really to help anybody going through this journey, or if they're supporting somebody, and just kind of letting them know what to expect when you have kidney cancer or cancer in general, or even potentially supporting somebody with it. My partner, Megan, she's been nothing but amazing throughout this entire journey. She's my best friend, my rock, and I'm hoping to have her on for some segments in the future. That way she can talk a bit about what it's been like being a caregiver to you, if you're watching this and you are supporting somebody with cancer. I'm really just hoping to help people as much as possible, whether that's answering questions, talking about specific topics surrounding cancer, kidney cancer specifically, just so they have a better idea going into it of what to expect. Obviously, not every case is the same for everybody, but I'm hoping I can shed some light on really what it's like. I made the channel because there really wasn't anybody else who kind of does this thing. I didn't see anybody vlogging about having kidney cancer specifically. I'm sure there are channels about people talking about their own cancer, but kidney cancer, there seemed to be a bit of a hole for people talking about their life. I really want to have this kind of following my daily life and my journeys and what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So that way it can be a little more candid than it is right now. I realize I'm kind of sitting in front of a camera, on my couch, but hopefully moving into the future, it can be a little more candid. I did just recently take up like photography and videography as a bit of a hobby. So I have a brand new camera, DSLR that I just got. It's been going great. And I just got a brand new DJI Mini 4 Pro drone. So that's been really cool, capturing really awesome videos. Some of those things are actually in the intro video that you saw at the very beginning. So now that the introduction's out of the way, let's jump right into kind of the timeline of what my cancer journey's been like. It goes back, kind of like I said, about 2 years ago to July 2023. And in July 2023, that's when I first started having small symptoms. Well, maybe small, maybe big, depending on how you look at it. But I started having symptoms of the kidney cancer I have now. And what was happening in July, I started to have a lot of pain all of a sudden on a Monday night in my right side, like the flank area. And it put me in bed for like a full week. I couldn't get up and move. I barely could get to the bathroom by myself. I had to take the week off work. I made a virtual appointment with a doctor online, and they said, you know what, without seeing you in person, it's really hard to kind of get a good idea of what might be going on. But they had a funny feeling that it might be kidney stones. And that's kind of what, when we were doing Google searches, kind of what came up. By the way, Google searching for this stuff is probably never a good idea, but we do it anyways because we love to do it, right? So I was also having blood in my urine, which was another symptom of what was happening. So again, that was also indicative of potentially kidney stones. After I had the doctor's appointment, we waited till the end of the week. It was Friday night, and I finally said, you know what, like, if this keeps happening tomorrow morning, I'm just finally going to go to emergency or urgent care, and try and get them to see what's going on. Maybe get like a scan or something done, because it was just a like really bad pain, and it was really concerning. And hindsight's always 2020. I probably should have gone into emergency sooner, but I didn't, and we kind of just ended it there, because on the Saturday I woke up in the morning and what do you know? The pain was gone, the blood in my urine was gone. So I just assumed, the kidney stone probably passed. I mean, that's fair to make an assumption that if it's all gone, the symptoms, then that's probably what happened. So fast forward to September 2023, it's been a few months, and I started noticing at the very end of the month and about the beginning of October, I started kind of having blood in my urine again, but this time, like the volume of blood in my urine was very heavy, and so obviously it was very concerning. At the beginning of October, I actually went for a work trip down to Mississauga, which is just right outside of Toronto, Ontario, and I was there with a few coworkers. And in the middle of the night, it was actually 4 in the morning. I had to go wake my buddy up because there was something obviously very wrong. I had a lot of blood in my urine, and I said, "Hey, like, I need to take me to the hospital." And obviously, like, he was a little concerned, but we got there. I had to wait, a long time before I saw anybody, but overall, I think the entire time I was there was from 4 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. So long process, but they're busy, and with the current state of healthcare in Ontario, it makes sense why it's so busy. When I was eventually seen, we went through a few tests. So they did some urine tests, they they did some blood samples, and they did an ultrasound of my abdomen. Their CT machine was down, so they couldn't do any CT scans. But the ultrasound they did showed that there were some cysts on my right kidney, and one of them was about like a quarter the size of my kidney. So the cyst itself was pretty large. At the end of the time in the hospital, they did refer me to urology in Mississauga. So obviously that wasn't going to work because I'm from Kingston, Ontario, and I had to come home. So the next day, I went to the walk-in clinic in Kingston to try to get a referral for a urology specialist here in Kingston. And while I was at the clinic, I started having the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Like I couldn't even believe it was possible to feel something like that. Like, guys, obviously, like what it's like being hit below the belt, and trust me, it's 10 times worse than that. So while I was at the walk-in clinic, I actually had to Uber over to the hospital. Not that it was very far, but like I could barely walk. It was that bad. And when I got to the hospital, the the lineup to see the triage nurse was extremely long, and I tried to get in quickly. So I asked the nurse, like, really quickly, is it possible to get seen? Because like I'm in an immense amount of pain. Like if we're talking on a scale of like 1 to 10, like I'm talking about a billion. Like I know that's exaggerative, but that's what it felt like, right? So I eventually had to go outside because I needed to throw up due to the pain, and I've never thrown up in my life due to pain. So that was kind of like, to me, that's how I knew it was really serious. There was a security guard at the door, and they obviously went to go tell the nurse because the nurse came running out, and she was like, "Okay, like, let's get you triaged and we'll get you into a room immediately." They finally took me into a room and they had me take some morphine. So that took the pain down really, really quickly, which is great. It obviously wasn't, you know, the best, I guess, pain management, but it took it down from what was like, again, a billion to about like a 7 out of 10. So still pretty painful, but manageable at that point. So after waiting a little bit in that room, having a doctor come see me and talk to me, they took me over to get a CT scan completed, and then they took me back to my room. After about an hour or so, they came back with the results of the CT scan, and the doctor said, like, listen, these results show something similar to obviously what the ultrasound found in Mississauga, and there are cysts on your kidney. So they referred me to a urologist, which was great, and that kind of concluded our appointments at the hospital. They gave me some pain meds, more morphine to take home with me to kind of manage the pain over the weekend. So fast forward to next week, and we actually got in really, really quickly to see the urologist we were going to be working with for the next little bit. In that appointment with him, he did basically tell us, you have cancer. And so obviously, that was a shock to us, and it wasn't the news we wanted to hear. But I mean, that's kind of where we've landed now, and that's been our journey so far, is that I have kidney cancer. And the doctor then confirmed it for us. He told us, listen, there's a 95% chance that this is cancer, and there's a 5% chance that there isn't, because obviously he wouldn't know until he fully got my kidney taken out. So the doctor told me that my kidney needed to be taken out, which was obviously not great news and not what we wanted to hear, but it was obviously for the best in the long run because my kidney wasn't functioning as it should have been. The doctor said that there was a 95% chance that what I had was kidney cancer, but obviously we needed to take the kidney out to confirm, because there always is a small chance that it wasn't. But he was obviously very good at what he does, and he's seen these cases, he said, like hundreds of times. So he was very confident that was cancer. So we booked in for about a month later in November to have my kidney taken out. Obviously, I was extremely scared. Like, I didn't want to do that because it's a frightening feeling having to get your kidney taken out, right? Like, you never want to have to take something that's vital to your well-being and have it ripped out of your body. Obviously, they didn't rip it out, but it definitely wasn't pleasant. The surgery itself is called a nephrectomy. So they removed my entire right kidney in November in hopes to obviously get rid of the cancer. As far as they could tell from the CT scan, the cancer was contained in the kidney. However, during the surgery, the doctor, my urologist, he noticed that there were a couple of inflamed lymph nodes right beside the kidney. So he wasn't originally going to take them out because it's not usually standard practice to take those lymph nodes out when you're doing a nephrectomy. But he thought to himself, you know what, I may as well just in case. And it's a good thing he did, because when the biopsy came back in December for the kidney and those lymph nodes, the results did show that it was all cancerous in all three of those parts of my body. So I'm glad he took them out, obviously. But even though it's weird, like, he told us this is essentially cancer, it still felt very surreal that that's what the news was that we were getting, and obviously we didn't want to hear that. So it was definitely heartbreaking, to hear that news. So from that point, two things happened. We were referred to a genetics counseling team at the hospital here in Kingston, and we were also referred to an oncologist at the cancer wing. When we saw the oncologist, he didn't want to jump the gun right away and say, let's do some immunotherapy or chemotherapy, radiation. Just because we weren't sure of the extent as to how much the cancer actually did spread through my body. We were hoping it was just a one-off where it just left my kidney and went to those two lymph nodes. So that's kind of the reason why we only had the one appointment with the oncologist and decided to leave it there. But we had planned to get another CT scan 3 months from that point. So then we saw our genetics team in December. Now, the thing with that was they said to us, listen, we're going to do this genetics testing, so I needed to give some blood for that, but it was going to take quite a bit of time to actually hear the results. And we didn't get those results until last July, which was 2024. And so from that genetics counseling appointment, we found out that, of course, I have one of the most rare types of cancer you can possibly get. And I'm going to look down quickly at my computer because the actual words for this diagnosis is very long. So the condition I have is a mutation of my FH gene, and the condition is called hereditary leiomyomatosis. What the hell is even that? Which is an extremely rare cancer. My doctor told me that there's actually only a few cases of this known, I believe, in the world, but he might have meant North America. I'm not 100% sure. So that's great, woohoo. I have to have, not only cancer, but the rarest kind that has almost no research on. So in between December and January, after that genetics appointment, we were referred to a new oncologist, we were referred to a new urologist who also kind of specialized in oncology. So our last urologist, the very first one, he specifically was specialized in urology. So he worked with kidneys on a very frequent basis. The new urologist that we were going to be seeing, he specialized in both urology and oncology. So he had his hands kind of in working with kidneys, but also had a better understanding of the cancer aspect of it. When we had our follow-up scan in March, the new CT scan, it did show that there were new developments of cancer in my lymph nodes. So the new doctor we were with, he wanted to consult with a special cases board that's part of the Cancer Board of Ontario and basically collaborate with other doctors to kind of determine what was the best course of action from that point. So in May of last year, of 2024, they decided that they wanted to do what's called a retroperitoneal lymph node dissection. And what that does is it removes a large margin of the lymphatic system around the area where my kidney was taken out. They're hoping to stop the spread of the cancer if that's where it was. It was in the lymphatic system. So the idea was surgery would take away those lymph nodes and hopefully stop the spread. And so that operation took place in, yes, May of last year, and the recovery period was about 8 weeks. That's actually similar to what the recovery period for my kidney cancer was. It was about 8 weeks. The recovery for both of those surgeries obviously wasn't great, when they're cutting your body open and taking organs out that obviously are important to you. Like they were definitely long recoveries, and it took time for me to feel better again. The second surgery, the retroperitoneal lymph node dissection, that one was a lot bigger of a surgery because I had to cut from basically my sternum down to my pelvic area. So big, large incision kind of around the belly button. And it really put me on a commission, and that itself, also came with a full month's diet plan that I needed to be on where I couldn't really have any fat. So trust me when I say that when you can't have fats, it eliminates a lot of foods, especially processed foods, which I mean, I understand if you're trying to eat healthy, you don't want to have that anyways, but I'm human and I love my treats, so too bad. Not too bad though, because I did go through the full month without eating fats, and it was horrible. But I will talk a lot more about symptoms and side effects of the two surgeries that I've had in a later video, because I don't want to get into that too much right now. So after the surgery was completed and I went through my recovery period, we had our follow-up CT scan from that in August. And unfortunately, this scan did show that the cancer metastasized again into another 3 lymph nodes. So at this point, it's just like it felt like we couldn't win. Like there was no good news, and we were struggling with our mental health already with everything we were going through. And the last thing we wanted to hear was, great, like the cancer's still there. I think we went into, this whole journey thinking it was a one and done when I first had my kidney taken out, but then it didn't. And then we had the next surgery, and we thought, okay, this is hopefully it. But it was just never the end of it. It was, this is what's going on, and this is what we're hoping to get rid of by taking the rest of those lymph nodes out of that region. But it didn't. And the biggest thing was, from all those genetics appointments and talking to them about that very, very rare cancer that I have, is we found out that it's incurable. So I live with a cancer now that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. I haven't come to terms with it still. It's almost been 2 years that I've been diagnosed. And I don't know if that's something you can ever really come to terms with. Like, I don't know if it's better that it's something that I couldn't prevent. Like at least if I was a smoker or something that might, give me a good chance of getting cancer, then I can at least blame myself. But this is something that is completely hereditary and I couldn't have done anything about. So it is what it is. I struggle with it, obviously. Megan, my partner, she struggles with it, but we try our best to get through it every day. And in a future episode, I will be talking a lot about what it's like dealing with that mentally and physically, and kind of some helpful steps to cope with that. So finally in August, after that scan was done and moving into September, our urologist said to us essentially, surgery is no longer an option because obviously it's just not working. So we had to figure something else out. So he went back to that special cases board to kind of consult with them to see what the best case or the best course of option was. And for them, they said, listen, I think we need to start on a different treatment plan. And that started with a new plan of immunotherapy. So with cancer patients, obviously, you can do surgeries to hopefully remove it. There's immunotherapy, there's chemotherapy, radiation. Immunotherapy was the plan that we decided to start on with our new oncologist. So as we're going through the fall, my oncology doctor, he started us on my immunotherapy treatments at the end of October. And it was supposed to be a 12-week period with 6 treatments, so every 2 weeks. But unfortunately, the treatment didn't work, and it gave me a lot of bad side effects, which again, I'll get into in a later video. But I had to stop after the second treatment. So I didn't even get halfway through that treatment plan because of how bad it was. It actually ended up giving me immunotherapy-induced aseptic meningitis in December, which is, I know, a mouthful, and it sucks. Like, meningitis is not something you ever want to get. So it's like, not only do I have the rarest form of like kidney cancer, but I also got one of the rarest side effects from immunotherapy, which is just great, right? Just my luck. Talk about not being able to get good news.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa. That's too damn bad!
So during Christmas, that full week at Christmas, I was actually hospitalized because of that meningitis. Which was obviously too bad because we didn't get to see our family, and we already hadn't really seen our family in a bit because of everything that had been going on. So after our stay at the hospital, they started me on a steroid called prednisone, and I was on that for 8 weeks to try and counteract the treatments. So the immunotherapy I was going through, it was designed to counteract the effects from that and the aseptic meningitis. The prednisone worked really, really well, but the prednisone itself also, like, while it worked really well, came with its own undesirable side effects, which I will also get to in another video at some other points. So once my prednisone was finished by the end of February of this year, we decided to start a new treatment plan, which was, it's not quite immunotherapy and it's not quite chemotherapy, but it's called targeted therapy. So it's very similar to both of those options, but the idea is it works in a similar way where it's preventing the oxygen from reaching, basically, I believe, the blood cells in my problem cancer spots. So as I'm going through this new treatment plan that started at the end of February, we get into the beginning of May, and we had our first follow-up because the first round, again, was another like 12 weeks until the scan after the treatment start date in February. And we were obviously extremely anxious because we'd only gotten bad news up until this point, right? So was it going to be good? Was it going to be bad? We didn't know, and we were extremely nervous going into it. I can't even tell you how anxious we both were going into that appointment. But to our surprise, it was amazing news. Our doctor, our oncologist, came in and told us, listen, the treatment's actually working, and it's something we need to stay the course on, because obviously if it's working, we want to keep going with it. The scan found that the problem areas had all shrunk in size and there were no new areas of cancer. So that's obviously the news you want to hear. Again, my cancer is incurable, but if it can be kept at bay for as long as possible, that's obviously what we're after with this treatment. So now I'll be on this treatment plan for the foreseeable future. I'll be getting another CT scan in about another 3 months from now, and hopefully we'll have the same results that we've had in the past month now. We want to have good results again. I will say I'm feeling pretty good these days, other than some side effects from the immunotherapy that I'm facing. But again, another video I'll talk about that. It's kind of interesting because after my prednisone was done and right before I started having the new treatments this round, I was having pain again in my side and kind of in my back where the known cancer spots were. So it's suspected they were pressing up against kind of my body wall, and that's why I was feeling it so much. But the first week into this treatment plan, I noticed that the pain was already starting to go. So we didn't want to jinx anything, but it seems like we knew early on that the treatment was actually working, which is really, really cool and neat. So despite this being a bit of a quick overview today, I guess relatively quick, like the video is getting to be maybe a little longer now, getting closewards of 15 to 20 minutes. I just wanted to go over briefly what the timeline has looked like today and kind of share that with you. Because this was my first video today, obviously it's probably a little rough around the edges, but thank you if you made it this far for sticking through it. I really, really appreciate it. The purpose of the channel really is to hopefully help people like yourself if that's what you're going through, kidney cancer or cancer in general, or if you're supporting somebody with cancer. The purpose is to really hopefully share some knowledge and some insight as to what it's like living with this every single day and answer any questions that maybe you have or address any specific topics that maybe you want seen. So if there is something you want to know about or hear about, let me know down in the comments and I'll be more than happy to get to them. I hope to be able to respond to all the comments as possible. I know I'm a very new channel, so I don't expect to really have many, if any at all. But if I do, I'll definitely get back to you because this is, a journey that's hard to get through and hopefully we can walk through it together, and help each other out down the road because it's something you don't want to be alone through. And I really hope that you're not alone through this. The next video I think I'll make has to do with kind of the symptoms I had leading up to the diagnosis and the diagnosis itself back in 2023. I'd like to share with you, what it felt like mentally, physically, and just kind of that whole process of going through that and what it looks like. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. Hopefully it was a little informational. I know again that it was just kind of a very quick overview and introduction of who I am, but hopefully you liked what you saw. I am sorry if it's again was a little rough at some points, and sorry if you saw me looking down quite a bit, because I was looking at my computer screen to kind of remember what to talk about because there's a lot and I just want to make sure that I cover it all. And also the windows right beside me, so sometimes I see people walking outside and it just catches my eye. So thank you so much for being here again today, and if you are here because of any of those reasons I kind of listed before, I'm so sorry that you're going through this, but let's try to get through it together and hopefully good news comes your way and we can fight this thing together. Until next time, stay safe and stay healthy.